We're interrupting your schedule just for 2 minutes to do two things. I'm not sure they're all here now, but I wanted to acknowledge the presence of 17 architectural students who study in Oslo, in Norway, who are here for 10 days in New York on an exchange program with Columbia. And they signed up a long time ago for this event. I remember Siri telling me, wow, we have 17 students from Norway signing up. And we thought, wow, this conference is really getting widely known. So I think I'd like, if any of them are here right now and not on the deck upstairs, raise your hands. You're one. Oh, that's great. Well, I think they're nibbling. Well, they'll be down. I just wanted you all to know that they're here. And, well, thank you for being here. We do a lot of what we do, for that next generation. So it's important that they get the mission and the spirit, too. Now I want to quickly introduce Faye Rosenfeld, not Roosevelt, who is basically the director of this amazing house and center. So Faye will describe a little bit about the purpose of it and maybe even quickly the history a little bit. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're just delighted to have all of you here with us today at Roosevelt House. Hunter College is actually the accidental preservationist of this historic house, so it could not be a more perfect place to host all of you. So the house today, where you are today, is the Public Policy Institute of Hunter College. We have classes here, we have seminars, we have conferences. Earlier this week we had former Mayor Michael Bloomberg standing where I am. And that's what we use the house for today. Historically, though, this was the home of Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt. And those of you who watched the recent Ken Burns series probably know a little bit more about the house than you did beforehand. But this is sort of a little-known architectural and historic treasure of New York City. The house was built in 1908 by Franklin Roosevelt's mother, Sarah Delano Roosevelt, as a belated wedding present for Franklin and Eleanor. And this was built with the major string attached, which is the adjoining house that she built for herself. So really these are, you look at the house from the outside, you see it's one unified facade, but on the inside there are two mirror image townhouses. And Sarah lived on one side, Franklin and Eleanor and their family, their 5 children, lived on the other side. There were sliding doors. Those of you who've read the histories of the Roosevelts know that this house had sliding doors on every floor, which enabled Sarah to come and go as she pleased. And Eleanor spent a lot of time crying. It was not necessarily a happy place for Eleanor, but the house had a lot of historic significance. The Roosevelts, as I said, lived here from 1908 off and on until President Roosevelt was elected to the presidency in 1932. They left in 1933. But, this is really the place where, among other things, Franklin Roosevelt recuperated from polio. The house was built, both houses were built with elevators. And so when he returned to New York after contracting polio in 1921, the summer of 1921, he came directly here. And the elevator enabled him to go up and down and to have some sense of mobility. And many, many historic events occurred in the house once he regained his strength and relaunched his political career. He planned his run for governor, planned his run for president, and then once he was elected president, planned much of the New Deal. In fact, I invite you all to go upstairs, peek inside the library, which is the room where he offered the position of Secretary of Labor to Frances Perkins, and where she accepted on the condition that he would agree to something we now know as Social Security. So many, many historic events. I'm going to quickly fast forward. 1941, Sarah Roosevelt dies, and the Roosevelts decide to sell the house to Hunter College for a nominal sum. And it became the country's first student center for interfaith and interracial understanding, dedicated by Eleanor Roosevelt to the college in 1943, which, if you think 1943, interfaith and interracial understanding is kind of remarkable. And the house was used by Hunter for nearly 50 years as a student center, and I think, as all you probably understand well, fell into terrible disrepair, lack of funds to maintain it, and it was boarded up in 1992. In 2001, Jennifer Rabb, some of you know, was the chair of Landmarks Preservation Commission, became the president of Hunter, and made it her first priority to restore the house and to turn it into a public policy center for the students and the people of New York City. And the house reopened in 2010, and here we are. And so we welcome all of you here today. Please come back. You can sign up for our mailing list and come to our public programs. We've just started doing tours on Saturdays, and that's been a really great experience for us. We're finding a lot of interest in us and in the Roosevelts. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your program, and look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye. Thanks.
I'm Will Tippens, and I am going to be moderating this next session, which I'm very excited about. But before we get started there, first I want to thank Sari for her incredible job of keeping us all on time. And Sari, if you wouldn't mind, would you hold up your card to show people how you are doing this from the front row? Needless to say, we all know who's in charge. So, this has been fascinating so far, and I hope that it continues to be that way. Our group here, if you look at the name of our session, it is how activists, artists are saving our city's heritage. And as we all spoke on the phone together, we really thought a lot about the heritage piece of this, because again, it isn't simply about buildings, but it's about, and it's, as we all know, and as we heard even this morning, it's all very much about the people. And for our panel today and this afternoon, our protagonists are often the underserved and the people that have been left behind. And it was, Justin that talked about the erosion of a fragile society and then the reshaping that occurs after that, and when he was talking about Mexico City. And our group of panelists will be able to speak directly to those issues. And instead of me saying more about myself, I think what each one of these people are doing is really quite remarkable and worth taking a little time to go through in some detail. And so I'm going to start with Jamie Kelvin, who will be our first. And Jamie Kelvin is one of the founders of the Invisible Institute, which is in Chicago, and he's a writer and a human rights activist. Since the early 1990s, he has had a parallel career working in inner-city Chicago neighborhoods. He long served as an advisor to the resident council at Stateway Gardens, which was one of Chicago's public housing developments, and he's currently serving under a federal consent decree as a consultant to the Horner Residence Committee, another one of the Chicago Housing Authority properties. At Stateway Gardens, he created a program of grassroots public works aimed at creating alternatives for ex-offenders and members of street gangs. And he worked to develop human rights monitoring strategies, among them The View from the Ground, which is an online publication available. Kelvin's reporting on patterns of police abuse has figured centrally in the public debate over police reform in Chicago, which is an ongoing issue in my and Jamie's hometown. And he has challenged official secrecy with respect to police misconduct investigations. And in March of 2014, this was big news. It hit all the papers. The Illinois Appellate Court ruled in Kelvin versus Chicago that such documents are public information. To his left is Gina Reichert, and she is the co-founder of Powerhouse Productions, which is in Detroit. Powerhouse Productions is an artist-run, neighborhood-based nonprofit organization incorporated not very long ago in 2009 with a mission to develop and implement creative neighborhood strategies integrating artists' live workspace with the existing cultural resources of the community to revitalize and inspire. It is the goal that through the skills and talents of artists and designers and their long-term work in the community, a new kind of neighborhood can emerge, one that is creatively and actively enjoyable, safe and sustainable for all. Roseanne Haggerty, next in line. Roseanne is the president of Community Solutions here in New York, and Roseanne is an internationally recognized leader in developing innovative strategies to end homelessness and strengthen communities. She has more than 20 years of experience developing permanent supportive housing and advising communities in the U.S. and around the world in their efforts to end homelessness. She's a MacArthur Fellow, an Ashoka Senior Fellow, and a Halt Alternative Fund Prime Mover. And Greg, next down the line, is a Senior Vice President of Properties with ArtSpace, which many of us, as we look down and there's the individuals that we heard from this morning, and then we have today ArtSpace, which has a footprint that has really grown over time. And Greg joined ArtSpace in 1999 as Senior Vice President of Properties. He's responsible for new project development and the oversight of ArtSpace's existing real estate assets, which are in many states around the country. He plays a key role in the origination of the new real estate deals and the projects of ArtSpace. And importantly, he helps a community translate their space needs into a project that fits with the physical and financial opportunities. And then he works with the project teams to make those vision a reality. And over that period of time that he's been working there, ArtSpace has developed over $275 million in real estate over the past 8 years. And they have another $175 million on the board. So they are taking this as part of the arts in the neighborhoods to the next level. And then finally, Ann Gadwa Nicodemus at the end is actually a choreographer and an art administrator that decided that urban planning was more her direction. And she explores the intersection of arts and community development as a researcher, writer, and speaker, and an advocate. And she's a principal of Metris Arts Consulting, which supports creative placemaking through research and planning. And she's authored many reports, most notably one that certainly many have heard of is Creative Placemaking, which was done for the Mayor's Institute on City Design. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to these people that are much better at speaking about these issues than I am, and we look forward to the conversation at the end.